moving on to the next item, item 8, the Capital Project Performance Report. So Ruth, welcome to the table. Thank you for joining us. And if we can just take any introductory remarks first of all, then we'll move to questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors. So Capital Project Report as of December.
Mic on.
Better?
That's better.
There we go.
Thank
Hello. Did you hear me? Do you want me to repeat myself? Okay, cool. So I'll make some general comments on the content of the report. We've got the delivery unit leads in the room to answer any specific questions. You will notice that there has been a slight change in the project names within the report, and this will be ongoing. They won't change any further. But we have done a complete review of our project names, changing our naming convention so that they are a little bit more understood by our citizens as well as internally. So those project names will be reflected in the long-term plan and in our long-term plan tool. So in terms of the content of the report, our financial year position, since last report to the committee, external funding from our shovel-ready projects and our water reform has been added to the financial year budget. So that has increased our financial year budget from 513 million, which we reported in November, to 552 million. In terms of our forecasts, page 44, we're now reporting the core program separately from the external funded and the multi-use and the metro. This just ensures that we can continue to provide a good view on how we're tracking to deliver on the core program, and that's our core commitments from the financial year 21 annual plan. So against the core program of 375 mil, project managers are forecasting 398.5. Against the external funded 66.9, forecasting a spend of 53.6. Across the whole program, we're looking to see an overall carry forward of 35.7 million based on the data from our project managers. You'll see that there's detailed carry forward and bring back information on page 49 to 53. So forecasts to the end of financial year, you will see from pages 45 to 48, there's some pretty decent forecasts coming up in the months ahead. There are specific commentary in relation to the kind of key drivers that are pushing those monthly forecasts to that level. So I'm going to make some general comments on the current position that we're in order to deliver on those forecasts. But if you have any specific queries in relation to the delivery programs, then I'll be deferring to the delivery heads. So in terms of general comments, spend to date at December was 193.5. This is an improved position at the same time last year of 188. So with an outturn last year of 380, despite COVID, we're on track to deliver a similar or a better result. To validate that, we have 243 projects in construction at the moment, forecasting 299, and that compares to last year of 225, forecasting 237. So from that original forecast of 237 last year, despite COVID, we still delivered 190. Our core program is forecasting a bring back of 9.5, so that's also a very unique situation from previous years. Usually by this point we're forecasting a pretty reasonable carry forward. So that means we are in an improved position to accommodate any unforeseen issues within that program that may occur in the remaining months. So to that end, our core program remains focused on delivering to that 375. And finally, our forecast accuracy. So in the last 12 rolling months, we have been around about 90% accuracy. COVID claims, page 54, in the last committee report, we had paid out 72%. We're now sitting at 93% of all claims and interim and final costs having been paid out. So we are at the end of the negotiations with only 4 claims left to be resolved. We'll now take any questions.
Thank you. So thanks for the update. Obviously that bring back of 9.9 or 9.5, that's something that we'll be keeping an eye on over the next few months. Deliverability of 50 million a month or in excess of 50 million a month for the rest of the financial year. Have you got a high level of confidence in that being able to be delivered? It seems quite ambitious. Just keen to get some further commentary around that.
Yeah, definitely. So it is ambitious when you compare it to previous years, but in terms of the position we are with projects in construction, we're doing better than we have in previous years as well. There are 3 kind of delivery units that are driving those forecasts, and so I thought it would be quite helpful for the committee to hear from them directly. So Transport are forecasting 55, 3 Waters are forecasting 75, and Major Facilities 40. So I think it'd be good, maybe Richard, Lynette, if Transport and Three Waters and Facilities could kind of speak to how they've got their program set up to deliver on the current forecasts.
Yeah, because certainly that 50 or 50 plus does seem ambitious, but you know, if we've got a high level of confidence around that, then that's excellent.
From Transport's perspective, we do, in the sense that we have a large number of works in train and they are contracted. So the bulk of ours sit either with major cycleways that are shovel-ready funded, and we've got currently about 5 or 6 contracts running. On top of that, we've got our maintenance contracts and other big contracts like Martians Road Bridge, Dyers Pass barriers. So there's a number of really big contracts out there, so we are confident that it's a realistic and pragmatic estimate of what we're going to spend.
Excellent. Thank you. It's good to hear.
John?
Presently, we've got about $70 million out in the market being evaluated or in tender. We've got about $15 million in land purchase being lined up for expenditure this financial year. And we're also in delivery of a significant program in our stormwater area right as we speak, as this is our delivery period in the drier period. So it's looking pretty good. We've had some savings which have suppressed a bit of what appears to be spend, and that is being redirected to next year's renewals and renewals of lead jointed pipes. So in that space, I think that the Three Waters delivery is pretty much as described in the reports.
So you're confident that the contribution to the 50 million or thereabouts a month that we're looking at coming from Three Waters, you're confident that that is deliverable as planned?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much.
And then finally, facilities.
Hot seat. So the 3 projects in particular are, one is a bring back, which is to Linwood Pools, which is bringing back a sum of money. The 2 other projects are CMUA and Metro Sports Facility, Metro Sports Facility being the larger of the 2, and that's regarding the forecast that's been presented to us by Otakaro. From a council perspective, we monitor that every month. And we pay against the invoices that come in, but again, their forecast is compounded by the COVID-19 issues and their programme issues. They won't provide a reforecast until their financial year end is completed. With regards to CMUA are predicted sums that were indicative forecasts that were given to us right at the very early days. We're now in a conclusion of an RFP, which is in negotiation with a preferred tenderer, and it's a due process that we're going through, and once we're through that process, we'll have a revised forecast which will inform the next year's spend profile. So.
All right, so I think a key point there is that the Metro Sports Facility, given that it's not a project that we're constructing or delivering, is out of control, and we're relying on information that's provided to us. Obviously, you're getting those monthly updates and you're feeding those into what we see. Yeah, it's worth pointing that out because, of course, that's not a project which has been delivered by council. And
John Bridgman did attend council at the last meeting to outline where they were at.
Correct.
Yeah. All
right, thank you. Ruth, I think it's been incredibly helpful having unit managers come in front of us to provide that level of confidence. You know, it's great that you're providing figures in a report at a high level, but I think, you know, particularly at this stage in the year, it's good for us to hear that level of confidence coming from unit managers that in turn can give us a level of confidence that whilst these numbers are ambitious, they are actually deliverable. So thank you for setting it up that way. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we move to questions?
I just think, to your point, with the committee's agreement, the way that the deliverability commentary by month is currently provided in the report could be split out by delivery unit so that you can see the contribution each delivery unit is making to that month.
Given the comments I just made, I think that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Right.
So now moving to questions. Aaron.
Yeah, a couple, Ruth. One is under some of the risks when we have, page 57, under exchange rate, any hike in the US dollar may impact project costs. At present, this is not impacting project costs, but has the potential to do so. But can go the other way as well, which it has since the election. The US dollar's weakened considerably, so we're about 10 cents better off now. Does that factor in that way? Do we get a win, or do all the suppliers just go, no, when we locked in the contract, the dollar was that, so we'll do that. But when it goes the other way, they'll go, oh, dollar's gone up.
I don't know the detail of the costs that we get on each specific project, so that would probably be a question for delivery units.
Yeah,
Can
because
anyone
it's just
comment?
highlighted for going when the dollar goes north, but when it goes south, which it has done since the election, thank goodness, it's quite a lot of money.
Lynette, is that something that you can
Yeah, I can
comment
provide
on?
a comment too, but I can't necessarily answer the detail of the question. When we set up our contracts, it does depend on how those contracts are set up. So if it is dependent on fluctuating, if materials are dependent on fluctuating exchange rates and we take that risk, then we take the risk either way.
Oh, so we do get a win sometimes?
Yep.
Cool. That's good to hear. And then the other one is on the contracts and the claims that were being made. As last year panned out, in the end, a number of companies that had put in like wage subsidy claims end up paying back because their end of year results were a lot better than expected. In fact, some are even better than if you hadn't had COVID. Are those any of those companies that have paid back the wage subsidy still putting a claim into the council?
We haven't received.
Because they've had a really good year.
We haven't received any new claims.
And any withdrawn claims?
The claims that we have, the contractual claims that we have paid out on have been under the conditions of the contract. So they have been for materials or works done that weren't included or that weren't considered because, so they're a variation to the contract. So the claims that we have made have been under the terms and conditions of the contract and under contract law. How the companies run their business is their business, and we haven't got into that. That is not what we've done in these claims.
Yeah. So,
It's not
those
something we can
contracts were
comment on,
written
so.
pre-COVID, obviously, and then COVID comes around, which makes for a very different year. So, yes, they can claim because of time loss and things like that. So, yep, they put in the
Or they
claim.
actually had to do extra work or types of work that they didn't intend having to do at the start of the contract.
Right.
So we have to pay for that. So, for example, when we knew we were going into lockdown and we had our contractors up on Cranford Street, we asked them to close the site and get rid of the cones so that the people living on that street weren't living in amongst a work site for 4, 6, 8 weeks.
Yep.
So they put extra asphalt down that they didn't have,
Right.
they closed up pits that they didn't intend to have to do. So they did work that they didn't intend to have to do, and we have to pay for that.
Yeah, and that's
So, and that's what our
100%
claims
fair.
have been.
Oh, so they're only
That's
those.
what our
Okay,
COVID claims are.
brilliant. So there's none for...
I can't answer that definitively, and it's not a question I would ask of the business. That's how they run their business. Our claims are under our contract for items that they have done, and they're entitled to under their contract.
Okay, so, yeah, right, okay.
Thank you. Jimmy.
I have two questions. First one on page 62. Regarding to the one of watch the list, the Horsewell Junction Road extension, particularly in here the risk, mitigate. I just want to know regarding the key rail program that works, all those kind of rail crossing, potential land contamination. My question and concern is because this forecast delivery date will be in May of 2022, only 1 year plus, whether this is under control or out of control, this risk.
It's definitely under control.
No problem.
No.
Okay, thank you. Second question is on page 65. The South Express, particular stage 1 from Templeton to the High Road. Those one, we enter into a detailed design, but the community, their particular concern, the particular traffic, pedestrian walkway, the safety issue, staff particular mention will be, the presenter to the community board and also the wider community in February. First question is whether this concern has been reflected to our detailed design. Second is now, my understanding, February didn't happen, whether it's postponed to March or not.
So the design has been undertaken and the community concerns have been taken into consideration. We are having continuing discussions with the community and the community group, as you're aware, about the concerns along Waterloo Road and others. As part of that, we have brought forward the construction of Hornby Primary, the crossing outside Hornby Primary on High Road. So that is going to be delivered early, ahead of the delivery of the rest of the cycleway in that area. South Express Cycleway currently has 3 contracts underway, another one in tender and another one due to tender in a couple of months. So we're getting out towards High Road now. We've always been building it from the city out. We are having continuing discussions with the residents group, as I said, and we have a briefing with the community board, with all of the community board, on the 9th. I think it had to get delayed to the 9th of March. But that is to take into account all the concerns that are being raised in that area. Staff are also looking at whether there's other things that can be done. So that will all be discussed at the briefing.
Thank you.
Jimmy, just on the Kiwi Rail matter that you raised in the first question, I raised with Minister Grant Robertson exactly that issue as an example of a number of issues that are happening around the country at the moment. He's very aware. Obviously, the government have got a focus on mode shift and climate change issues. He's very aware of that issue. So it's been picked up at that level as well.
Through the chair, we've seen benefit of that conversation. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Welcome. It's good to know that a joined-up approach is working. Excellent.
One of shovel-ready program, and also is kind of severe the delay for several years.
Yep.
Community and the basic particular concern this project.
Yep. So we've got progress. That's good. Pauline.
Thank you. I've just got a question on page 60, I think, about the St Albans Community Centre. Can you explain, so the current approved budget, the current forecast and the actual to date, so approved and forecast is 3.9 million. How, and then, what does that mean? I always thought it was 3.2. Yeah, I'd love that.
The total life-to-date budget since inception is 3.9. As you'll be
Sorry, can you say that again?
The total life-to-date budget, all of start to finish, is 3.9, and that's what we're forecasting to here. That's what Ruth's report shows us.
Oh, I was always under the impression it was 3.2. So, it's nearly finished.
Yeah, great news. The team are on site at the moment. We're looking to issue practical completion within the next 10 days, which gives us a clear month out till the opening on the 10th.
Are we going to come in under the 3.9?
We're going to come in, this will be a successful project delivered under budget.
Okay, well that's great for me to hear, because there's a couple of things that we need there. And one of them is really, really important. It's the actual name on the side of the building.
I've brought a colleague who can talk to that, Paul McKeefrey.
And it's not going to cost
No, we
very
don't want
much
you
to
to do it.
No, I'm no good at doing signs.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that Richie Moyle, who's the project manager, is attending the community board next week. He is looking at options in relation to the name and what is the design of the particular name that is.
Well, the news to date, in all fairness, is the feedback we've had at the board is that there's no budget for a sign on the building. There's a sign for a freestanding sign, funding for a freestanding side outside. And the quote that they've had is $12,000 to put a name on the building.
The important thing to add though is the sign was originally in the design,
Yes,
and
it
it was
was.
taken off to reduce the cost of the overall building.
That's
So if we're
correct.
actually under budget, that should be reinstated.
So can we take that offline from this
Absolutely,
meeting,
yeah.
but can we make sure it's taken away in a way that it's going to be handled and dealt with?
Yes.
Because, I mean, Richie's done a wonderful job there, but sometimes I get the feeling that his hands are tied when it comes to budget allowances, and he's really trying to stick to the 3.2. But for me, a sign, and a good sign on the building, we have unofficially decided we've been gifted a Māori name as well, is really, really key. It's an amazing looking building, and it would be such a shame to have it let down without a really good naming on the side of
Paul
it.
and I are very happy to talk to you off.
So let's take that offline, but let's see whether we can get to an ideal outcome, which is a project that still comes in under budget,
It
but
will.
with a sign
It
attached to
will.
the outside of the building.
Yep.
So is there any chance that we could get the accessibility ramp off the deck then at the same time?
Can we take this conversation offline? There are clearly a number of features that are going to be a
No,
part of that
that's
discussion.
it, just the two things.
All right, that's
Keep it under
fine. Now,
budget.
I've got Yanni and then Sarah. Yanni.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the residents in Oldport Place around the Littleton Harbour wastewater scheme. I mean, that street has basically, since the earthquake had works in it, that project's now looking like it's delayed again. There seems to be a whole bunch of issues with it. Is there anything that we can do to address it if it's delayed? Can we make it look nice and a bit like what we heard before? Or can we get good communication to those residents about what's actually going on?
So I think we commented on this at the pre-meeting.
Yeah.
There had been a delay with the delivery of a bespoke valve for that position, and they were undertaking some work on the valve pit, which was expected to be completed around about now, and we were going to disestablish or tidy it up, communicate with the residents, and then come back in 2 months' time when we expected that valve to arrive from overseas.
So it should all be tidied up now?
Very soon, yes.
Right, and has there been a notice go to residents to
Yes.
explain what's
Yep.
going on?
Yep, they're talking to the residents continually about the progress on that.
Can we get like normally at a community board level we'd get a start work notice on things, but I mean I've gone back through.
Yeah,
and just
I
can't find
guess in
any
that space, because it's work in progress, there hasn't been any further start work notices because it's actually started.
Right, okay. I mean it's just quite common that we would get like an update when if things are delayed or so anyway I'll just feed that back, but it's good to hear that that's on track. I just wanted to thank staff for organising a site visit to the Chewham Street brick barrel. I just thought it's actually really good when you get an opportunity to see firsthand what some of the issues are, particularly with projects that are red. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say that if there were opportunities going forward, I think it's really valuable to hear firsthand. When you see it, you can actually understand why things may not be as
If
straightforward.
councillors have a specific interest in a project, we would invite you to come and talk to us, and we'd be very happy to show you around any of them.
Great. There was another one here that had the levels wrong, and I just can't quite find it, but it said that we were having to go back because the levels were wrong in terms of the work that was done. So, yeah, I was just concerned about that. Sorry, just looking through.
Shall we come back to you, Yanni, once you've found that
Yeah,
one?
I had another question about the arena, the Metro Sports Facility. It says delays are due to slower progress than current construction program. Construction program currently being reviewed by contractor in Otakaro. Have we got any idea what's happening there? Why it's delayed? What the problem is? I mean, this has been something that's been raised repeatedly.
Yep.
We've sort of been reassured that it's been on track, and now it seems like something's going wrong.
We can't. I can't talk directly to how they're project managing that project. We're obviously cognizant that there's been a great deal of work occurred over the last few months, certainly within the structural steel and the cladding. They're showing great progress, there's no doubt, but there'll be a massive catch-up that they're in the process of doing. They can make big headways into structural steel programs and erection of steel and cladding for the exteriors and the pools, but they are ultimately in delay, and they are working through that progress. And it is a contractual discussion that Otakara will be having with CPB as the main contractor. To date, they're indicating that there's a possibility of time being pulled back, but you can see from the spend forecast that that's not actually occurring. So it's a pretty obvious point that they are going to be in delay. We're just waiting for them to confirm what that delay is.
We don't have any sense of it's a year
Well,
or
we're
months?
No, we can't tell. I can't tell you that because I can't tell you what their program of work is. They have not updated the program. They've not come back to us because they're in contractual discussions with CPB. So, but it's obvious from the spend forecast that they're in delay because you need to meet a dollar spend in order to get to where you've got to go to.
Okay.
If we wanted a fuller update, an idea might be to get John Bridgman back at some point, either to the next iteration of this meeting.
So Mark Noonan, yes, so through the chair, sorry. Mark Noonan represents council's interest from the management of the contract from our side. So I'll talk to Mark when he's back at work, and we'll discuss getting John and their financial team in the room to discuss how they're going with progress and how they're going with the contractual claim.
Yep. Clearly, it's an area of interest for us. I mean, it may well be that things have moved on or we've got more certainty within the next month before the next meeting, but it would be good to get an update so that we know exactly where we're at.
Just on page 59, I just had 3 questions. Hereford Street Bridge, surface replacement, it says there's a forecast overspend to signal pole relocations, and the project manager is currently reviewing budgets in order to confirm final cost. There was also some discussion around the bollards as well. So it's not mentioned in that specific one, I think it was mentioned in a different one. So I'm just kind of curious when we, what's the change process for Hereford Street if there's significant extra cost? Because I guess with the bollards, I wasn't really happy the way that process, the cost seemed to go up quite considerably. And I don't think we had good visibility of that. So are we going to get a report to council?
Any changes as a result of contractual requirements or financial changes that will be undertaken as per the agreed financial delegations that we work within.
So all council decision making on that project is complete. Everything that remains to be done is either within the project or within staff delegation. Is that correct?
And if it's not, it will be reported back to council.
So choosing the cost of the bollards based on the terror risk, like I don't recall us ever getting a report saying here's the options. Simply money was added and the budget was increased considerably.
The discussion was had at the annual plan session. So that my understanding is the bollards, the discussion was had at the last annual plan.
There was an increase in the line item, but there was no specific report that said, you know, based on the terror threat, we're spending X.
There was briefings too and discussions with the appropriate committee about that one.
From memory, there were 2 briefings.
Does anyone recall?
That's my understanding.
From a decision-making point of view, the whole matter's within staff delegation, but elected members were given the courtesy of a briefing where we provided guidance, which has then influenced the way that staff have exercised their ability to delegate.
That's exactly right, and the changes in budget were brought through the annual plan process.
Yeah.
Okay. I just find it weird, like, you know, St Albans can't get $12,000 for a sign, gets taken off and they're struggling, and we've got significant changes.
Okay, can we stick to questions?
All right.
Thank you.
The other question was in the Insour's Fifield Lewis and Main renewal wastewater. The contract is complete. However, additional stages now required 80 metres upstream to correct a level discrepancy and replace poor condition pipes. So I was just trying to check why that wasn't picked up at the start of the project.
There was a survey error, and when they came to connect to the manhole, they found that the pipe didn't match at the appropriate level. So the resolution to that was to extend the laying of the pipe and bring forward the replacement of another section of pipe which was going to be done in the following financial year.
Will there be like a closeout report that determines how that could occur? Because it seems pretty basic.
It was a survey error by one of our consultants. We could talk to them about their professional indemnity, but the loss to the council is effectively nil because it was pipe that was going to be replaced anyway.
And the final question I had was on the, just on the top one, the water supply reactive water meter renewal. Additional budget required to fund water meter replacements for FY21. A change request of 2.9 million has been submitted. I know we've also got a smart water meter program as well. And I think I'm just trying to understand at what point do we make the call to go to a smart meter technology rather than bring forward money to do the existing replacement?
So we are going to run a trial of smart meters out in the Rāwhiti zone, and following that trial we will look at the rollout across the city. However, the meters that we're putting in at the moment, the so-called dumb meters, can be upgraded by putting the smarts on top. So we won't be closing off any options by putting those meters in.
But there'd be a huge additional cost to retrofitting and making
No,
them
there would be a
smart,
very
or-
small additional cost. So you just pop them on top.
So it won't cost a lot.
That's correct. Yeah. And the reactive water meter replacement program is to address the leaks at the Toby boxes that are being reported around the city. So instead of doing repairs on those Toby boxes where the meters are quite elderly, we're replacing the whole meter assembly, and that means that we don't come back 2 or 3 times. And we're also improving the backflow prevention at those sites.
So what's the cost of just putting in a replacement meter as we're doing now versus putting in a smart meter versus coming back and putting a smart thing on at a later date?
I'll have to come back to you with those precise costs.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so moving on with questions. Sarah and then Aaron and then James. Sarah.
Oh, listen, I can take mine offline to save time. It's fine.
All right, thank you. Aaron.
Yeah, mine was just around the St Albans Community Centre. Is that approximately 400 square metres? Is that the size, or is it bigger?
It is approximately 400 square metres.
And is that price, the 3.9, is that the build cost, or is that including the land purchase?
No, that's everything required from start to finish to deliver the project. It's not the construction cost. It's not the land cost. It includes a number of things: the purchase of 130 Caledonian Road, staff time, resource consents, everything you need to deliver the project. So if you're I'm preempting a question about square metre costs potentially.
Yeah, like you do with most projects. Like if I was going to buy a house, I'd...
So when the QS bottoms it out, we've got an external, as we do on all our jobs, a professional consultancy running the numbers on us. I'll happily provide this committee with the final square metre cost.
Thank you. Yep, if we can get that just by way of a memo or an email, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you take off the land costs and then every other cost
looking at
is...
the build cost for the actual box.
Yep, so
Yeah.
if you can provide the cost and the basis on which you've arrived at it, that would be excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
Okay, James.
Actually, my questions of, through you, Ruth, to Helen. Is that possible?
So, Helen, if we can bring you
about
back
that.
to the table. So I'm guessing this is on a water matter?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know why they all just don't sit on the front row.
Sorry, I didn't realise that she was leaving.
No, that's all right. No problem. It's good that we've got the right people in the room for all these questions. Thank you.
Just quickly, about the smart meter trial in the Rāwhiti zone, what was the reason for using that area?
That zone has recently been disconnected from the central zone, if you like, and we chose that because it's got a number of new pump stations. It's both a large enough and small enough zone to test the technology, and we just regard that as the best spot for it.
I like the answer, but I just want to check that wouldn't mean that zone would be the first to pay excess water charges?
No, it won't make any difference. We can advance that if you wish, but yes, we could use that
That
as
was
a
a
trial.
statement, not a question. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so are there any more questions on this capital project performance report? Okay, so I'm happy to move this. Do I have a seconder? Aaron? Is there any debate? All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. Now moving on to item 9, the Water Services Bill draft submission. Now this has been the subject of